we haven't even talked about it yet on this channel, obviously, because there's been such a void in our life from not having you on the channel, man. So, Conor, are people mistaken to say he's done after that fight? Because I think it's a freak injury, but I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I've actually thought he's been done probably since the Khabib fight, if I'm being honest. From a mental standpoint, I think he's been done ever since then. You know, the Nate Diaz stuff, I did think a lot of it sort of got handed to him, especially in the rematch. Like, I don't think he looked that great in the rematch, but it was, you know, like, I just think stuff gets served to Conor on a silver platter. And there's something to be said about that when, you know, you've got a business to run, and that's what Dana White's doing. He's running his business, he's making money. And if you've got a cash cow, you continue to feed that cash cow. But ever since then, Conor's gone off and, you know, he's explored his whiskey business. He's getting in fights at bars because old men tell him his whiskey's trash. I mean, he's smashing buses. And to me personally, I just don't think his heart's really been in it. And if you take a look at, you know, even his you know, recent victory, I think the last one was over Donald Cerrone, and everybody knows that Cowboy's sort of over the hill too and probably needs to retire. He was even on a little bit of a skid before the Conor fight. Let alone after the Conor fight. And so when your only win in, you know, the past few years, I think it's actually been like 5 years since he notched a win, has been over a perennial gatekeeper in Cowboy Cerrone. And I love Cowboy. It's not a knock at him. He just never won the championship, and he was never good enough to win the championship. But he was always good enough to be, you know, top five. And so when you beat somebody that's always a gatekeeper, never championship level, and that's your only win in the past 5 years, to me, like, it's hard to say that, no, you're not done. And I think that the game has passed him up. At a smaller weight class, back when Conor was at 145, he had such tremendous power on the feet. He used some really interesting, funky movement and motion on his feet that in some ways it almost mesmerized his opponents. And he was able to put it together with his reach and his power and dominate down at a lower weight class. Now that he's gone up, you know, 155 and above, he doesn't have that reach advantage that he normally does. And his power is maybe comparable to everybody else. And when your power is comparable to everybody else, you're at a bigger weight class, you don't have a reach advantage. That means your skills have to be better than everybody else. And you can make the argument that, yeah, on feet, he might still be better than a lot of fighters, but it's MMA and it's well-rounded. And so you've got to worry about takedowns, takedown defense, grappling on the mat. And so I think that just everybody else has sort of just transcended his skills and his talent. And I just don't think he has the drive anymore to get better, to be able to stay at the top tier. And so I think he's still probably a good fighter. I think he'll recover. He might come back and get another win, but will he be a champion again? I don't think so.
I think, though, that you're kind of underrating him in this sense. Just because to say that he doesn't have that mental drive, I kind of don't believe you in this respect. The guy has been printing money for years. He is far and away the highest paid fighter in the UFC. And yet he's still taking the chance and the opportunity to go out there and accept a big money fight. And not a lot of people would still do that. Obviously, when you talk about a killer like Dustin Poirier across from you, it's not something that I think too many people who are satisfied and content would do. So I do think that fighter spirit is still in Conor. And when it comes to the fight against Dustin itself, he did make a mistake. He tried to grapple. That is obviously not Conor's strong suit. When he went for that guillotine, it was clear that Dustin had the advantage there, was able to work his way out, and then just punished him with those just brutal elbow shots. But even then, Conor still got his licks in too. He was able to get a really strong kick going on from guard. And I do think that had that fight played out a little bit more, we could have seen some more adjustments, some more gamesmanship as Conor was starting to fill out that fight. It's a shame. I feel we got robbed of the rest of that fight. And I do think that it could have been one of the better fights of the last couple of years, especially for Conor, especially for Dustin, had it not ended in the fashion it did. Are you excited at all for the potential of Dustin versus Conor 4?
Yeah, so I guess let me counter a few things that you said. And so here's why I still also think that he doesn't have the drive or the passion that he normally does. And I think, you know, to articulate this, I think Conor thought Dustin 2 was going to be an easy win. And that's why I think Conor was willing to take that fight. Because Conor, he got starched against Khabib. And if anybody can get like an instant rematch, it probably would have been McGregor. I know that there was things going on with Khabib's father dying and things like that. And so it never happened. But you never see Conor, when he gets completely dominated like that, you never see him ask for a rematch. He asked for a rematch with Dustin, in my opinion, because Dustin was on the rise. So Dustin had a few good wins. And so Conor thought, hey, this will probably go like the first match or the first fight, and I can still say that, yeah, I've still got it because Dustin's been going up, up the ranks of lightweight. That didn't happen in the first fight. And then I think, of course, there's always big money when it comes to rubber matches. So there's always big money. Like, think about the Nate Diaz loss that McGregor had. Everybody, I think, would still pay a whole lot of money to see, Diaz and McGregor 3 just because it's a rubber match. And I think it was the same thing. It's like, oh, now it's 1-1. Dustin has one, Conor has one. Yeah, we want to see 3. But in my opinion, I just thought like Dustin just dominated from start to finish. And people were saying like, oh, he got a few good looks in. In my opinion, the only reason that McGregor went for a takedown is I think he was gassed. I've never seen McGregor go for a takedown. And logically, I don't understand why McGregor would even try to take down a BJJ black belt when McGregor knows that, it's not a strong suit. And maybe you could just say like his camp is just running out of ideas, or like that was a stupid call on his camp's part. Maybe I think Kavanaugh is his coach's name. Maybe Kavanaugh was telling him, hey, go for a takedown, try to mix it up and surprise him and catch Poirier off guard. But it's almost more dangerous to have a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt on their back than, it is to be underneath them. And so just to me, like, I just don't understand. Like, I don't think it was intentional. I think it was out of desperation. And a lot of it is you can tell that McGregor gets gas still, come first, second round. And so the game plan to beat McGregor is pretty simple. You make sure that you can make it out of the first and second round, just don't get knocked out within that time. And if you can take him down, burn out all his energy. You'll get either a tap, or come third round, you knock him out or get close to it to the point where you can get him on the ground anyways. Again, I don't know if McGregor has the heart that he once did, especially like seeing him get gassed that early and, like I said, get desperate that early. And no, I don't look forward to a Dustin and Conor 4, just because I think Poirier has passed him. And I think if we run this fight 100 times, I think Dustin wins 99 out of those 100 times from here on out.
99 out of 100. You're
I
willing to
think
make
so.
that bet, huh?
I think so. I honestly am. Like, I think Dustin has passed him. Now, granted, Conor still has power. Like I said, everybody always has a puncher's chance, but I don't think Conor's power has increased that much from when he was down at flyweight to where he's at now at lightweight. But I think Poirier being up a little bit more and cutting less now has more stability and a better chin. Because when you do that, you're more hydrated. You've just got more fluid in your brain, literally, right? You've got more water in your brain. You can bulk up a little bit and strengthen, the muscles in your neck are what help stabilize your chin a little bit more, and your shoulders and all that. And so I think Dustin can now hang with the power of a lot of the lightweights, including McGregor, but like McGregor just doesn't have as much. And like I said, I just don't think McGregor has the heart anymore.
I don't know. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Dustin Poirier would be the favorite in this next matchup. They said it's pretty much as done a deal can be. However, to say he doesn't have a heart, man, the guy had a broken leg, and you could say it's just showmanship here, but the guy's yelling at Poirier, yelling at anyone that will listen. Your wife's in my DMs, all this stuff. And I just feel as though the guy's got balls, man. At the base minimum, the guy's got balls. And I think that counts for something. That tells me that he still wants to be in that octagon, and he doesn't have to be.
I don't know. I don't know if it's so much ball. Part of it could have just been him trying to spare the embarrassment. Like, I think he literally got embarrassed in the octagon, and Conor fans will say no, and they'll just be like, "Hey, what can you do about a broken leg that snapped?"
I
Like,
mean,
I
what
think
can you do about a broken leg, though?
it is true, like 100%. Like, I can't deny that, and I hope McGregor's doing well. So I don't want anybody to take this as like me wishing poorly on McGregor, because I'm not. I would never wish poorly on any athlete. But I think like where I noticed in the fight is, like I said, Poirier was getting probably the better part of most of the exchanges. McGregor definitely got some good hits in there, but McGregor had to resort to something completely out of his wheelhouse, out of his game plan, by trying to grapple, which he's never done. He had poor submissions. And at one point, some of us were like, oh man, maybe he does have Poirier. But I don't think so. I don't think Poirier ever at once was concerned about the guillotine. And then McGregor had to resort to some cheap tricks too, of pulling the gloves when you were doing up kicks. And maybe you could say, hey, that was just a matter of like he tried to hold on to the wrist and his hand accidentally slipped and opened, right? Because I understand that as somebody that's done, combat sports, things get slippery, your hand opens and you just get caught or something. But I think McGregor was trying to hold on to do cheap tricks. He's done things like that in the past where he punches fighters in the back of the head and stuff like that. And so like I think all of it together, seeing Conor go with a game plan out of desperation, seeing him do some of the cheap stuff on the ground by holding the gloves, I just don't think McGregor has really anything to offer, even to most of the top 5 guys at lightweight. I think they all beat him.